Whereas if BRICS takes over or another country becomes the leader or whatever, then I don't want to be under China. I wouldn't even want to be in that world. I would probably like dig a bunker and just like never come out again. I don't want to be under Mao Zedong's
Yeah.
protege. Hey guys, Rafi here from the Endgame Investor. This is somebody I've never interviewed before, Daniel Tinkham, who says he's new in the gold and silver space, not new in the gold and silver space, but at least in the trying to make his name public and get out there and talk about money and truth in money. Really, not really truth in finances. It's truth in money. It's what we're dealing with here. So Daniel, welcome. Thank you for contacting me, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you. The what I've
Likewise.
what I've worked out is that there's basically two teams on the gold and silver space, or the real money space, and not that we're antagonistic to each other, but um, there's I wouldn't say my team. I'm not the leader of it, but my way of looking at things is that that gold and silver really is the base of the entire pyramid, which means that everything in a literal sense, from all the way from the dollar from a paper dollar to Bitcoin and anything even on top of Bitcoin is really just a derivative of gold. And though people might give lip service to this concept, they don't really I don't think they really internalize it or take it seriously, because that means that once the gold exchange rate with the dollar falls, then the entire thing falls, meaning everything that we've built up since 1933. And there can be no really tinkering with the system to fix it. We can spot corruption here, we can spot corruption there, and it's all true. There is corruption everywhere, but there's no fixing one area of the system while the rest, that will last, because the entire thing has to fall over. And that's really what we have to prepare for in that sense. So anyone who tries to accumulate or put their faith in any other derivative of the dollar that's on top of the dollar in the pyramid is going to fail. So my message is we have to keep stacking. Obviously, if you have enough, then stop. I'm not saying like it's a religious obligation to stack every month or
If
anything.
you
If you
have
have
enough, you
enough,
can send some over my way.
right? Yeah. If you have enough, stop. But if you don't have enough, or you don't have enough to sleep soundly, stack more. And really don't worry about the price. Don't worry about Bitcoin. Don't worry about all the other derivatives. This whole thing is coming down. The money is, you quoted this from me. The money itself is the engine of the corruption ship. And when that falls, we're going to have to reorganize everything from the bottom up. It's not going to be pretty. There's no technical fixes to any of this. We just have to prepare for the collapse of it all. And I don't know exactly what that entails. This is why I don't really want to be in the U.S. right now, but I'm here right now, and hopefully I get back to my country in Israel, where things are also bad. But at least we're a derivative of the dollar also, so we're not the dollar itself, and hopefully things calm down after the crash, which I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. So where do you fit on this? Do you think that technical fixes of certain issues are possible? Do you think that we can fix the monetary system, or we can get a new Federal Reserve that can fix things, or are you more on my page? And either way you are, it's fine. Either way, we're on the same team. So, and what are you trying to accomplish being public now that you think is missing in the discussion that's going on?
Yeah, so to answer your questions, yes and yes, I definitely think the system is fixable. I think it's going to take folks like myself to, come into the light and try to educate and explain to people exactly what's going on. So I think at the very beginning of your discussion, I think Exter's pyramid fits that model perfectly. So for the institutionalist, the someone who's inside that's trying to figure out, okay, what is exactly going on? Look at John Exter's pyramid. Gold is at the base, but silver is actually at the very tip of that base. So silver will be first and then gold, because silver is the money of the people. And once you can start looking at that through that lens, it's going to give you a whole new perspective. I worked at Fidelity for a number of years. So I grew up with the old school, the Peter Lynch. I didn't know Peter personally, but I guess I was a colleague, and I worked in Merrimack, second floor Contra, and that old school way of thinking was really just, it comes from a time when those guys back in the 50s and 60s had real money. And as we've grown up into this new system, a lot of those folks are retiring, and a lot of those old concepts that were true didn't really fit very well within a fiat type of system. and especially when we came off the gold standard in August of 71, that's when the money printers just started going burr, and they've been going burr ever since, and they haven't stopped. And so for me, God's really put me forward and asked me to be a voice for him and for his kingdom. And we can all understand where we're going next month with BRICS. I think Andy Scheckman said it best in an interview. He said he talked to Jim Rickards extensively, and I think the analogy is great that this is a train. And if we're using analogies, the train is at the station. They're putting coal into that train and getting the steam engine ready to go. And as soon as Saudi Arabia flips the switch, then it's going to start moving. And
So
then
you
you
think
can
that's
add,
real? I'm sorry. So you think the whole BRICS thing? I think it's hype. I think it's nothing.
I
But
think it's
look, I don't
it's a
know. Maybe
formidable
I'm wrong.
force.
What?
It's a formidable force. So it's going to require the United States to take action. And I hope it's not military, from a military perspective, but it's going to get people off their butts here and say, okay, this is a thing. Even if BRICS is a facade, whether it is or not is beside the point. The fact is it's going to be happening. 80% of the world will attempt to use this. Now, the simple solution,
Wait, hold on.
because
Wait, hold on.
yeah,
What do you think they're actually going to do? Do you think that this you're talking about the new gold BRICS currency that supposedly they're working on, right?
yes, yeah, well, they've
So
been
then,
working on it for a long time.
okay, so first of all, like, what is the? I don't think there's anything to work on. If you want to trade in gold, trade in gold. Like, there's no working. And second of all, like, what do you think they're actually going to do? Are they actually going to trade in gold, or are they going to try to use gold to peg a
they're going
value?
they're going they're going to use their own digital currency to exchange at a nation level. So every month there'll be, essentially, it's a ledger system, and the ledgers will balance surpluses and deficits, and then there'll be some sort of mechanism, and then they'll use the Shanghai cooperation and the Shanghai Gold Exchange if a particular country actually wants to settle in physical, so they can actually come down if they want to melt their bars. Again, that's how I see it. I could be totally wrong on it, but I'm just trying to figure out, okay, from a solution standpoint, what are they going to try to do? Now, what we should do is Treasury should immediately enact a bimetallic standard of gold and silver. And we have the United States Post Office, who's actually been conducting, they have a lot of blockchain patents. A lot of people don't realize the United States Post Office owns patents. And the Post Office here in the United States actually offered banking services before it was really the 60s, early 70s is when that model died. But that old model could be resurrected like an old car. You fix it up. Again, that's more technical and complex. I'm just here to bring some different ideas to the table. We all know how well government works. And so from that standpoint, how it would be done, I guess you just have to put the right people in charge. Whether or not there's people out
I
there
don't
that can
think there are
understand
any
the
right
system.
people. There's no right people. I mean, look, you seem to be going on a if you put the right people in charge of this current system will work better. Again, I don't take that view. I don't see any evidence that the BRICS countries are doing anything, even if they tried, like, theoretically. So I've written about this on the Endgame Investor pretty frequently. Like, if they start to trade in gold, even if it's a legitimate gold substitute, like, and they settle with actual bullion in an account somewhere that is convertible that they can actually use, then basically all of the treasuries, let's say the $1 trillion of treasuries in China's basement, or in Brazil, and Russia doesn't have any, but India has, and South Africa has, all that becomes worthless, and that pretty much upends their entire trade structure. Which means that if they do this, they're going to impoverish, like, most of their country. I just don't, it's going to happen anyway when the dollar falls. I mean, their
Isn't that
other
their goal,
treasuries are
though?
going to become other
Isn't
treasuries
that
are
their
going to
goal?
become
They don't want
worthless
a middle class.
anyway.
They'll say they want a middle class, but they don't. I mean, let's face it, China wants to have just 1% of their population, in the high class, and then the rest can serve. That's just their model. They're communists. So at the end of the day, we have all these countries, whether it's the CCP, whether it's all these different organizations that run these countries. Yeah, to your point, a lot of systems have to fail and crash and burn. You don't want to build a house right before a house fire, or right before fire comes through, type of thing. So yeah, I would say the system has to settle. I'm not proposing to build any new infrastructure next month or anything. No, the system has to crash, and what that looks like, that's up for speculation. But I'm just trying to figure out solutions on the other side when everybody's, dazed and confused and trying to figure out, okay, what do we do next? I'm just out here to try to put out some ideas.
Uh-huh. Okay, so what's your first idea? Just to contrast with mine, my first idea is to go as local as possible. Forget all this
Yes,
globalist stuff, and
but that's at an
basically figure
individual
out
level.
figure out who grows food near you, figure out who has stuff, figure out who has money, and then start a trade circle or a local economy. And then from
Yes.
there, you can have your local economy connect with the next local economy, like two towns over. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be any country that's going to save anything or power center is going to move from the US to China or to Russia. It's like we've had a unipolar world since 1934, not even since 1971, because what enabled the US to win World War II and become unipolar was the confiscation of all the gold in 1934. That's when the entire world became basically the US empire. And now that one empire is falling with everything beneath it included. I don't think there's going to be any BRICS country or any center of power anywhere. I mean, that's both very scary and also I think very encouraging because we can really rebuild from the bottom up, and it's going to be very hard work and it's going to be very scary, but it's going to be the most healthy thing. Whereas if BRICS takes over or another country becomes the leader or whatever, then I don't want to be under China. I wouldn't even want to be in that world. I would probably dig a bunker and just never come out again. I don't want to be under Mao Zedong's
Yeah.
protege.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there'll be a one central global. That's what they're going to attempt. I mean, we've seen the World Economic Forum. They want to move their headquarters to either Shanghai or Beijing by 2030. I don't think there'll be one country that's going to rule everyone else. I think it'll be it'll be fragmented for a few years. But to your point, if people want to spend locally, then Gresham's law has to balance out. So it's the bad money will always chase after good money. And so if all the bad money's left, that's the Federal Reserve fiat notes, then why would I go spend my gold and silver now if I know next week it's going to be worth more? So there's the issue of hoarding, spending the bad money, hoarding the good money until there's a balance where like a local farmer's market, for example, if people have to start paying with silver, and then if enough people do, then that can reignite the system. But right now there's no ignition. It's like we have everything, but there's no spark plug in a sense
Yeah.
because things are not in balance. But yeah, within a few years or when there's desperate times call for desperate measures. So if there is a period of time where we are having to exchange locally for whatever reason, and we do have to exchange in gold and silver, then so be it. Then that market will flourish, and the other markets will die, and that's just that'll be up to God, really.
Yeah, yeah. I
At that
mean,
point.
look, you're a biblical guy. I'm a biblical guy. We both know the story of the Tower of Babel. We both know what happened after it collapsed, right? After it collapsed, then basically humanity spread out and started different power centers and different families, and we have a whole genealogy of what happened after that. And I think something like that is going to happen now. I mean, I don't even see how. I mean, what makes globalism possible? What makes these power centers even possible? And that's communication. Even in the 19th century, when globalism really started, and you started having like a really well functioning global economy in the 19th century that was under a real gold standard, that's when we had the most stable growth as a planet. Um, and that what enabled that was transatlantic, trans-Pacific communication, like whether it was telegrams or whatever it was, fast communication. If you don't have communication, you can't have globalism anymore. And I don't even see. I mean, I don't usually talk about these issues, but I don't even see how the internet can possibly function if there's no function if the dollar collapses. I think it'll come back, but like in the initial stages, who's going to pay the bills for the server farms? Who's going to pay all the electricity bills? Who's going to dig up all the commodities for the electricity companies to supply the electricity for the server farms? I think everything is going to go down for a while, and I mean, I don't. I don't like to go into these thought directions, but I don't see any other possibility because everything is based on the dollar. And when you're talking about Gresham's law, to respond to that for a second, I remember in What Has Government Done to Our Money, or Done with Our Money, I forgot the exact title of it. It was a short little kuntras, a short little packet that Murray Rothbard put together, and he corrected a mistake on Gresham's law. The colloquial way to put it is that bad money drives out good money. Okay, and I say that too. But the accurate way to phrase Gresham's law is that artificially overvalued money drives out artificially undervalued money, right? Because the dollar is artificially overvalued because its exchange rate with gold is way out of whack, and also the intrinsic value of a dollar is less than a penny with the paper, and even less than that with the digital. So the answer is what balances Gresham's law is that when the artificially overvalued money falls to zero and is no longer artificially overvalued, like when the dollar can no longer buy any gold, it can't buy anything, and then you can't buy anything with a dollar, so you have no choice. It's not like a plan to go back to gold. It's just like there's nothing else to use. So then you're forced into the right way. And if we're talk about how a human being really comes to terms with his own mortality and is forced to improve as a person. Like he's tried all the evil paths, and if he's not like just like addicted to them like drugs, then you like at one point you'll hit rock bottom wherever your rock bottom happens to be. And the better you are as a person, the higher your rock bottom is, because you recognize if you're going into a bad direction that you have to turn around. And the better you are as a person, the quicker you turn around after you make a mistake. So we'll hit our rock bottom, and then we'll either use gold and silver or we'll die. That's going to be the rock bottom for most people. Either you do what's right or you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you could
Yeah,
respond to all those
that's
points.
a fair statement. Yeah, you hit rock bottom and then you bounce back. I mean, that's what's going to happen. There's known knowns and known unknowns, and then there's unknown unknowns, and you can't really plan for that. But
Okay,
I've
Rumsfeld. Yeah,
seen the
thanks.
worst of humanity, but I've also seen the best of humanity as well. And if I know that there's an all-loving God, then I know he's going to take care of his children, whatever that looks like. Yeah, there could be any number of things that happen if the internet goes down and now you and I can't communicate because you're in Israel and I'm in New Hampshire, then someday we'll maybe communicate again. Like that, we don't know what's going to happen ultimately, but we have to live for today and plan for tomorrow. And I think really I think we're in Exodus in a sense that we need to prepare our houses and plan accordingly, and then just have faith in God. And for me, that's worked. That's how I live. I respect everyone else's, way that they live. And I try to be a model for how people live their lives. They get to ultimately choose through God's love, through free will, how they live. And so that's where I'm at on that. But I want to change topics a little bit.
Okay.
We can maybe jump into some of the up-to-date things going on and just try to figure out, I guess, where we're at, because like we're in the precipice, it feels like, and I know, and it feels so cliche, and it feels like people have been saying that for so long, but we have the United States losing its AAA rating from Fitch. We have Trump being indicted again. We have the Federal Reserve, which has sustained paper losses of 900 billion. To me, that's called insolvency, and to me, that under the U.S. code, because the Federal Reserve is not federal nor has reserves. When are they filing for bankruptcy? That's what I'm wondering. Spot uranium's up 10%. We have the Biden administration that's actively exploring COVID-style shutdowns for, quote, climate change reasons. What's that going to look like? What are they trying to do to us? So this morning, the VIX was up 12%. The 10-year is over 4.1. And folks, silver is on sale yet again in fiat terms. So
Is it down today?
I don't know why it's down today, which again, every time it's down, you should view that as a blessing to be able to add a little bit more. MilesFranklin is my preferred broker. I understand you use MilesFranklin as well. So
Yes,
get on the
actually, I'm
phone.
meeting with Andy Sheffman today for lunch.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, even better. So yeah, at this point, I can be a cheerleader. I was an insider for a long time. So if you listen to someone like me, I have advanced degrees. I'm CRPC certified by the CFP board, although I voluntarily gave up my Series 7 license. to do what I'm doing now, which is I work in private equity. We're raising capital for oil, gas, and water. And if anyone's interested, they can go to my website. It's www.danieltinkham.com. And
I'll put a link
I
in the description below for that.
Yep. So at the end of the day, though, when you talk about your pyramid and your base, that base should consist of gold, but especially silver. So, I mean, my preferred ratio is I'm at about 75% silver, about 20% gold, and 5% platinum. Although I am considering divesting my platinum and some of my gold, either for more silver or for other possible projects. I think owning high quality land, farmland, livestock, you can't hurt it if you have the ability to do that. Have some energy assets. I believe we're going into a 10-year commodity super cycle, which is why I exited the securities business. I try to be a, a trend wave, kind of guy where I try to pick up trends. And, I rode the stock trend for a while. It was good to me. It was good to my clients, helped clients make a lot of money. But now at this point, it's, get off the surfboard. Things are going to get real choppy. Hunker down, and, it's not a matter of how much you're going to make moving forward. It's about what you preserve. And that's really what I'm trying to teach and educate my clients, because we've been in this 40-year paradigm of, 40 years ago, 1980 bonds were at 20%. Well, the only place they could go down at that point was down, especially under the Reagan administration and pushing things the way they did. That's really when the money printing really started. But we've been in a 40-year bull run. So I was in the 401k space for a long time. The old saying, your IRA is an IOU to the IRS. So you have to figure out, with your retirement, does BlackRock control your retirement? Probably in one way, shape, or form. Do you want to be part of that system? Yes or no? You get to pick and decide. The devil owns the fence, and you have to pick a side at the end of the day. And for me and for my clients that I've helped, some people that are listening to this may have been a Fidelity client or been an Empower client. I worked at New York Life. I worked at TD. So if you've heard me before, whether you know me personally through work or whether you're hearing me for the first time, no one knows what's coming. No one knows. And if you can prepare your house with precious metals, energy, land, you're going to fare quite well.
So
I like to, yeah.
two questions. Just because I'm interested. Was it you said in 2019 you had like this change in your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What was the Eureka moment for you? What did you see that you decided like I can't do this anymore and I have to change tracks? And yeah, so that's the question. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
what
great
did it?
question. So yeah, I mean, God, at the end of 2018, God really put it on my heart. He said, you have to get into this fight. And so I guess I'll just share with your viewers that I've run a secret channel on Twitter and now on Telegram. I at one point I was averaging about 5 million impressions per month. I preferred to keep my personal life separate from my double life I was running, Online Patriots and that whole movement. So, but you know, really it was God that pushed me into the sphere. And from there, for me, it's really just doing good, living by his word, and living for my family, and just trying to be a good person overall. And, it hasn't let me down since then. So I'm going to keep going in that direction.
Mhm. And can you tell us about a little bit about the nature of the industry that you come from? Like, what are the people like? Do they realize that they're like a big part of the problem? Are they completely oblivious to it? Are they just cogs in a system that they
Um,
don't really understand?
most,
Are there
yeah,
people
most
that
are
that
oblivious.
understand what's going on?
Yeah, most are oblivious, but from a loving standpoint, like the people that I've worked with over the years are some of the best people that you could ever meet. For me moving forward, it's all about education. It's about teaching people, here's where we came from, here's where we're at now, and here's where we're going. So it's like, in a sense, it's like a telescope. If even one of the lenses is off, you're not going to get the right picture. So the Hubble telescope had to be perfect to see far off into the distant universe. So you have to align your lenses in a way where you can understand history enough to know what's going on today. And then from today, you can then, and that's how I use discernment, is through probability and other measures that our brains are quantum computers. So if I can put a bunch of people together, us working collaboratively are far better than any of these supercomputers that they're running, because we already run quantum computers. They're called our brains. And so from that standpoint, it's really just working together, collaborating, coming up with solutions to really help. I mean, save humanity basically is what it's come down to. You see some of the stuff going on, and you have to wonder, where is our world going? And I don't want to leave that legacy for my kids and grandkids. I know you don't. You want them to live in a beautiful world, and I do believe that one person can change the world. And as part of my calling, I've been asked to step up, and that happened, and it's been a journey, and it's been so much fun, and I've met so many wonderful, loving people. There's maybe 100, 200 people that know, both my private life as well as my, you know, life online between Twitter and Telegram. And, some of your folks watching this may figure out who I am, and that's okay. And that's free will. And that's a beautiful thing. But for me, it's really just coming out, sharing my testimony, sharing my truth, whatever that looks like. If some people didn't like what they heard today, so be it. That's okay, and that they can add that in the comments. But if you really did like what you hear and you want to talk more, I believe that everyone should have an opportunity to speak. And I am, being in the retirement business for so long, my rule of thumb was always, I want to listen to my clients 3 times as much as I'm talking. If I'm talking too much, then I'm not listening to their needs. And so I love hearing from people. So if you go on my website, you can send me a message. There's never any cost to talk to me. If you want to talk about, the oil, gas, and water project I'm part of, I'm happy to do that. And I'm also available for consulting at an hourly rate that's published on my website.
Okay. We say this a lot. We need some kind of a base. Talk about extras pyramid, right? There's a base of gold and silver, but there's a base below that, or around that, and that is the creator of the universe himself. And
Amen.
I think part of the reason why people like us can't really be phased, they say, oh, gold and silver's down and this and that, and it's been so many years, and the other portfolio managers are outpacing you, and you're just a joke. I'm like, yeah, but we still know what the reality is, and I don't know exactly what the timing is, and I'm comfortable saying that I don't know, because at bottom, really, part of believing in God is accepting your own mortality. That none of us are going to escape this planet alive. No matter how old we get, we're all going away. And when you realize that, then you really have no choice but to do what is right and do what is balanced. And some people can't even only have a sense for it. The people that I'm trying to reach, and the people I think that you're trying to reach also, are not the people on the other side. We're not trying to convert anybody. We're trying to focus people that already understand it, whose souls are already alive, who get it,
Amen.
but they don't quite get what they get. It's like something speaking to them, but they don't know what it is. So I try to keep them focused on this. Okay, that uncomfortable feeling, and that feeling that everything is falling down. Well, that's right, but here's where you got to look. So look at that, and then if I can get enough people to look at that, then maybe we can gather enough resources that we are the ones that can rebuild society in the end. And we say that we don't know exactly what's going on. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in the end game. But we do have historical precedent. We have the collapse of the Roman Empire. And that really was the collapse of civilization back then. And it took, what was it, maybe 1,000 years from then until the Renaissance, when biblical values started to seep back into the culture. It took 1,000 years, and in the meantime, nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew what had happened. They were finding all these Roman, relics and leftovers from when civilization last flourished, and they didn't even know what it was. And then slowly we rebuilt that. So I'm hoping. I know that we are entering a dark ages. That's clear. Nobody's thinking anymore. It's not saying nobody's thinking, but you have to find the people that are thinking like you, and people like me, and people that I interview, and the people that we found when the world lost its mind in 2020, and we find them, and then we rebuild from there. So hopefully it'll take a little bit less than 1,000 years this time, maybe 10 years, maybe
Yeah.
20 years. Hopefully in our lifetimes we'll see civilization rebuilt, and into something completely new and completely different and much more balanced, where people aren't all on drugs. And that's one of the things that's also scaring me, is that my daughters just came back from sleepaway camp and told me that more than half of their bunks were on some version of prescription methamphetamine, I don't Ritalin or whatever it is, and they're all on that as children. What's that going to do to them when they grow up, and what's this generation going to be like when half of them are drugged? Uh, this it's all fits into the same picture. Anyway, any closing words? We got 4 minutes left, and
Yep.
it's been good chatting with you. We have slightly different views on things, but enough of a common base, much more of a common base that we're on the same team, and let's do whatever we think God told us to do.
Amen to that. Yeah. And I think, however someone prays, if you can just kind of slow down, because here in America, we go too fast all the time. So if you can slow down, and if there's something you heard today, just pray to God on it. Say, hey, Rafi said this or Dan said that, and what does it mean? And God will give you the answer, that I'm certain. And so I'll leave it there.
Okay, Dan, it was great talking to you. We'll put your links in the description below. Yeah, contact him if you're interested in his approach. And I hope to see you on the other side of the end game, intact and well and healthy.
Likewise. Thanks, Rafi. It was a pleasure.
All right, you're welcome.